So, over the weekend, Warner Brothers debuted two new TV spots for Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice. And as a Batman fan watching them, I had an absolutely horrifying realization, and that's that maybe Zack Snyder is a Superman fan. Or perhaps at the very least has an allegiance to Superman, a loyalty, because he, of course, directed his movie first, and to some degree contributed to the decision not to give him a sequel. So maybe he's making it up to him by making Superman cooler than Batman. I know, it upsets the natural order of not just the DC universe, but fandom in general. But I'm seeing mounting evidence, particularly as the Batman v Superman movie begins to emerge as it truly is, because apparently they have been creatively editing this thing up until now to favor Batman. But as we see it in its true form, it's all about Superman, who I have to be honest is really devoing it up. And I have some great tweets from you guys to throw in here as well, because we were tweeting about it over the weekend and having actually a really good time. And you know what? I'm not against maybe throwing my allegiance to Superman, because I have to say that Henry Cavill, he was the most interesting thing in The Man from U.N.C.L.E. because he just kind of went for it, and I think the movie didn't back him up. So if he's going to go full-on Devo here and just snap in Batman's face, I could be into that. And also, he looks so cool in one of these TV spots when the headlights, reveal him from the Batmobile. And, look at the way he fills out that suit, and he's rocking the makeup in that poster, right? So, you know what? If Zack Snyder wants to take Superman in that direction, it is certainly a new direction for him. And I think it's throwing me off, and I wouldn't be surprised if it throws Batman off as well. He's like a Boy Scout I can handle. But this bad attitude Devo, I'm kind of at a loss for words, as you see in one of these spots. All right, so let's dig in to the evidence. And we're going to go back to the second trailer as well, because you can see evidence there as well. But let's look at the TV spots first. The first TV spot I saw was the one with the Batmobile, and it was so dark, and it was so unlike Batman that I had to watch it a few times to fully understand what happened, because the Batmobile, I guess he tries to run Superman down, perhaps, and he instead bounces off like the Batmobile is a toy, and then he ricochets into a gas pump, and there's a fiery explosion, which is awesome for Superman in slow motion and the cape for Superman, as we see in the TV spot. But it really is just so embarrassing to Batman, because Batman does his research, and they've even shown in other trailers that Bruce Wayne has watched Superman cut through buildings with his body. So I don't understand how he thinks just the Batmobile, and this is one of the flimsiest, lightest versions of the Batmobile we've seen, how he thinks that would run him over at all. I mean, I'd be like, don't try and hit him, because that man took out a building. So when he just go bink and ricocheted off, it was like, what? It was just horrifying. It was horrifying. Then they have the "Do you bleed" line, and then he says, "Do you bleed?" and then he says, "You will." That's a great line, and it has been a rallying call for this film. And they debuted it at Comic-Con a while ago, actually, with the very first look at the movie. But in that situation, they misled us. They made it look like Batman was saying that line to Superman's face. But the reality is that he says it to his back. I was shocked at that development. That's what I tweeted about. That's what I got reactions from you guys from, because it was just so crazy. So I said, look, I'm still incredibly excited for Batman v Superman, but it's incredibly less cool, the line "you will," when it's said to Superman's back. And then this was the response I got. Jay said, Supes clearly has that "bitch please" look on his face, and I was like, he does, he totally does. And then Muka said, then Supes turns back and says, what? And Batman's like, nothing. Because that's totally the vibe that I got. It's like Superman was like, I'm not staying around for this garbage. See ya. And then Batman's like, but I had this line that I worked really hard on with Alfred, and we worked on it in the Batcave, and I have to say it. Because, a lot of you defended Batman saying, well, Superman has super hearing, so he heard it. But come on, Batman came out looking less cool in that altercation. Even if Superman heard it, I'm sure he heard it with a smile on his face, because he's like, have fun delivering that to my butt, because I'm out of here. So I thought that was absolutely insane. I was like, I've never seen Batman get burned like that before. He's fought Firefly. So that was just absolutely shocking to me. Then in the other TV spot, he calls Clark Kent son. And I had major problems with that because a lot of you pointed out and said, well, Bruce Wayne's supposed to be older than Clark Kent. Well, in the comics, they're always the same age, except for, of course, The Dark Knight Returns, with the Frank Miller comic, which, and in that case, I think they're even still supposed to be the same age, but I think Kryptonians age differently. But, of course, Zack Snyder has his real allegiance is to Frank Miller. So, there's some reference to that. And, the actual sun line coming from that comic. But I don't care if you paint some gray in Ben Affleck's temples. He and Henry Cavill look about the same age, and there's only actually a 10-year age difference between them. But then someone I think really excellently pointed out in a spirited discussion online with me on Twitter that Chris Evans says son as Captain America, and it works. And it does work because Chris Evans owns it. And who would ever think that Chris Evans would outact anyone? That's what a gift the Captain America role has been to him. But when Ben Affleck says son, he swallows it. At the last minute, he's like, my heart's not in this burn. I can't do it. And also maybe he's like, well, I'm going to call him son to make him feel stupid, but that's also going to really emphasize perhaps that I am much older than him. And do I really want to do that? Do I really want to throw myself under the bus too? But it was too late and he'd already started to say it. There's no conviction in that burn. So at the end of the day, I think actually still again, Clark Kent comes out the victor because you're like, did you just call me son? I think that's ridiculous. I've seen other actors do son and it's worked, even sometimes when they are also the same age as the person they're trying to take down. But just something about the exchange didn't work. And perhaps it's because Ben Affleck's heart just wasn't in it. I mean, he's doing a crazy Thurston Howell accent as Bruce Wayne, which I'm totally digging, but I don't think it's good for burns, okay? I mean, he should be more doing I was recently watching top Star Wars fights, and Obi-Wan Kenobi, played by Ewan McGregor, has that so uncivilized burn. That's more Bruce Wayne's speed in this incarnation of him. That's what he should have gone for. Or called him a farm boy or something like that. Go for the class war, not the age war. So I thought that was problematic. But if you go back, there's even more evidence that Superman's going to be cooler. Look at that. Who's sex slave, right? I believe that Batman's the one tied up in the S&M dungeon. Then also he has that amazing line, if I wanted you dead, you'd be dead already. What? Superman never says that. It's just he's I'm just assuming people know that, and I really don't want to point it out because Pa and Ma told me that would be rude. But here he's I will kill you where you stand. I could have done it already, so step off. So I was like, what? I actually hope that Superman does the head bob. I'd be like, that's amazing. And then also, he has no idea who Bruce Wayne is, of course, when he gets out of the car at this whatever benefit they're at. Clark Kent, he's like, who's that? And the guy who's with him is like, that's Bruce Wayne. And I initially had thought that really out of character for Clark Kent to be so misinformed over one of probably the most famous people in the world, right? Bruce Wayne. And as someone else said, he did run smack into one of Wayne's satellites during the Man of Steel fight against Zod. Perhaps Clark Kent is doing a burn, being like, I don't know who that is. Who the hell's that? Who's that? Weird Thurston Howell hermit? I'm gonna go talk to him and annoy him. So I just was like, maybe I read that exchange all wrong, and Clark Kent is just, taking him down a peg before he even gets to him, right? I mean, that was just crazy. So the posters, the TV spots now, I've said this before, this Superman, Henry Cavill's Superman has this anger about him, I don't have to be nice to you. Remember the end of Man of Steel when he's like, I'm not going to participate with the U.S. government. Stop following me. And you were just like, what? And even Ma Kent is like, you don't owe no one anything. And you're like, I've never heard Ma Kent say that before. Wow. And so I'm just very curious to see what kind of Superman we're going to meet in this movie. And, his unwillingness to mask his disgust is just, at first I thought it was out of character, but now I feel perhaps we're going to meet a new Superman who is just has a lot of attitude and a lot of strut. And if you take that to Superman and he's not the Boy Scout, what does that leave for Batman? I'm very curious how they're going to etch that out. I think that maybe what's left is the psychopath, but even still, if he's a psychopath and there's rumors that he enjoys inflicting pain on others, perhaps more than usual for Batman, still, then you want the Rorschach. I don't think Rorschach would ever deliver a line to anyone's back, right? I just don't think, I don't know, there was just something about the delivery. So I'm curious, what do you think? Do you see a shifting of coolness? Is this the end of an era? And do you think that as a Batman fan, you can get behind Superman being cooler? And as a Superman fan, do you feel it's about damn time. All right, and well, maybe this will make you like Zack Snyder a little bit more. And how could Ben Affleck and Chris Terrio let this happen? I don't know. My head's still spinning. But going forward, we'll be looking for more evidence of this. All right, write your thoughts down below. Thank you for your tweets, guys. Hilarious stuff. And you can check out some other videos right now.